In this session, we're going to learn how to create an information product that sells. We're going to learn tips, tricks, and shortcuts to creating a valuable information product. So first, I want to talk to you about a counterintuitive product mindset. And this is that your product is an obstacle. Okay? To your customer, your product is an obstacle. Your customer doesn't want your product. They want an outcome. They want a result. They want a benefit, or they want relief from something. In fact, to your customer, your product or your training or coaching or advice is actually an obstacle between them and the results that they want. Okay, if it were up to them, they'd love to just skip getting the product and go right to the result. This mindset here that the product is an obstacle, right? This mindset helps underscore the importance of making sure your product is maximally focused on results, on giving outcome, on giving a benefit, on giving the relief that your customer wants. If you imagine a game board where there's a starting square and then there's a path all the way to the end, that's the path that your customer is going to have to take from where they are to the outcome or the result that they want. Now, on that path, if they're going to be purchasing your product, your ebook or your audio course or your video or your coaching, your advice in some format, they don't see that as the thing that gets them the result. They see it as something they kind of have to climb over, something that they have to pay money for, something that they have to do work, more extra work, in order to get the outcome that they want. When you imagine it in this way, it switches your mindset from, I have super valuable information that my customer needs, and they should recognize it and be willing to pay me money, and it helps you to think about formatting up the knowledge that you have, the techniques, the systems, formatting it up in a way that is very connected to the outcomes and the results that your customers want. We humans fall into a trap of thinking that we're so smart, our knowledge is so great, we know so much, people should listen to what we have to say. And when we do that, we forget that other people are only interested in things that benefit them for the most part. That's what they're tuned to. You may have heard the joke, they're tuned to the radio station called WIIFM, which is, let me say that again, they're tuned to the radio station called WIIFM, which is What's in It for Me. And this mindset helps you keep that in mind and tune everything to what's in it for them, and not get caught in the trap of, I'm so great and I'm so smart. Another good mindset to take is, what if your customer actually hired you to create the product? Okay, so if your customer hired you to be a research assistant, what would they assign you to figure out, and then how would they want you to show it to them? In fact, if your customer is buying your product, then they are essentially hiring you and paying you to figure out how to solve their problem and then show it to them. So for example, let's say that you help people get dates. Okay, that's what your product does. It helps them get a date with an attractive member of the opposite sex. Okay, what if we switched it around and your customer, who is looking to figure out how to get dates, what if they came and hired you to be their research assistant? And they said to you, I'm really interested in learning how to get a date. Will you go and do the research and figure out the answers to all of these different questions that I have? Will you go and figure this stuff out? Okay? What would they assign you to figure out? What is the things that they want to know? And then, how would they want you to show it to them? Okay? Again, we're trying to turn the mindset around so that it gives you another perspective, your customer's perspective. And if you just remember that your customer, from their perspective, they are hiring you and they are paying you to figure out how to solve their problem. They are paying you to show it to them the way that they want to learn it. Again, it gets you out of this mindset of, I'm just going to talk about what I've learned, and they should be happy that I've taught it to them. So what we're talking about here is really connecting everything to a need of some type. Okay, we learned in earlier sessions about niches being needs and to always focus on the need. When you go to the doctor, you typically visit because you have a need. Okay, something is bothering you and you want to fix it. Customers are the same. Okay, identify and connect every part of your product to a need that they have. Don't just give them a bunch of good ideas. Okay, so still hammering home this idea, which is even going to become more important as we get into marketing, as we focus on persuading people, selling them what we're offering, getting them to buy. Remember, it's all about their needs. And it's very important to find that one biggest need, that maybe 2 or 3 top needs, and to keep connecting everything to those needs. Keep connecting every idea, every technique, every strategy you teach to some result that they're going to get, to some relief that they're going to get. So with this in mind, the outline of your product should be an outline of your customer's needs, addressing the most important need first. So start by reviewing all of the fears, frustrations, problems, desires, wants, and aspirations that you've heard from people as you've asked them and talked with them. Next, prioritize in order of importance to your customer and build the outline of your product from this framework. So yes, I really am serious that when you build your product, you want to make your product match the priority of needs that your customers have. You don't want to make your product just the things that you think are good ideas. Why would we want to build our product as an outline of the needs of the customer? Well, for 2 reasons. One, because we want customers to use what we're teaching them, right? We want them to dive into the product and say, wow, this meets my need. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to go use this immediately. But more importantly, down the road when we start focusing on sales and marketing, we want to make our life easy. When we're creating a landing page to get people to opt in, when we're creating a sales video for a product, we want to be able to just talk about the product as it is and have customers say, wow, that's exactly what I want. And that's exactly what I want to learn. That's exactly the result that I want. That's the outcome that I want. And when you make a list of your customers' fears and frustrations and their desires and their aspirations, and then you prioritize them, and then you actually make your product based on this outline, when you talk about the product, it will go like a hand into a glove, right? It will connect right up to their needs, and the customer will be saying, wow, that's exactly what I want. So not only are we creating something that the customer can use and they'll engage, they'll want to actually take the techniques and dive in and use them, but we're also making our sales and marketing life easy down the road. If you don't do it this way, if you just make a book full of ideas or a video series full of techniques that you think are a good idea, when you go to sell the product and create marketing materials, you're going to be talking about stuff that's important to you, not stuff that's important to them. Now you might say, well, gosh, Eben, the most important things that my customer needs to do are not the things that they want to learn. Okay, so, I teach people how to lose weight, and the things that they really need to do, which are exercise more and eat less, those are not the things that the customer is interested in learning. Right? My customer is interested in learning how to eat more food and lose weight. So what I would say to you is, this is where you'll learn how to artfully include what they need to learn inside of what they want to learn. Okay, so you'll artfully include what they need to learn inside of what they want to learn. So build your product around what they want, the results that they want, the fears and frustrations and problems that they want to avoid, and then within that framework, if there are things that they really need that they are not aware of or maybe they're not conscious of, you fit that in around the stuff that they want. This is how you create a product that literally sells itself, and that's also very compelling to your customer. Give your customers recipes along with insights. Okay, so give your customers recipes along with insights. As we've already learned, create each part of your product by first starting with the specific outcome your customer wants, then identifying an action step for them to take to get it, then creating a recipe of how-to instructions, then the theory, then the motivation. Okay, so why, what, how, what if? This very powerful framework that we've learned, that's how to that's kind of how to format your content. And when you think of your product, right, every section or chapter should stand alone as a recipe in and of itself. Okay, so every chapter or every section should cover why, what, how, and what if. And when you do this, then your customer will have a really nice recipe. Now, one of the reasons why we're doing this, again, is back to the idea that down the road what we're going to be doing is trying to get people to buy the products that we're selling. And we're going to be selling this stuff and asking people to give us their money in exchange. And we want to make our life as easy as possible, and we want to make our product as attractive as possible. And if, let's say that you've written a book, and in the book you teach people how to get out of credit card debt, and let's say in chapter 3, the entire chapter is about how to contact your credit card companies and get them to lower your interest rate and get them to change the terms and payment terms. You want to make sure that that entire chapter follows the formula of why, what, how, and what if. So you want to explain up front. If you use what you learn in this chapter, if you take the steps that I'm about to teach you, you can lower your interest rate of your credit cards by 5 to 9%, which, if you have $20,000 in credit card debt, can save you, and then put whatever the amount of money is in there, can save you between $5,000 and $9,000 in cash. And if you don't use these techniques, it's going to take you twice as long to get out of debt. Okay, so there's the why. Then you can talk about the what, the interest rate on your credit card and how it relates to the balance of your debt. You can talk about how credit cards think about interest rates. You can show how the schemes work if you make a late payment and what the effect is on the the long-term payout that you're going to be making on your credit card. In other words, tell them the what, explain how interest rates work. Talk a little bit about the psychology of lowering your interest rate, the kinds of things that you have to say when you call up. Then, of course, give them the action steps, how to, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then, of course, get the person into action. Make sure they go and take action. Okay, so a little why, what, how, what if. The reason why we're doing this is because later on, when we're writing our sales letter, later on when we're doing our sales process, we want to be able to say, in Chapter 3, you will learn exactly how to contact your credit card company and get them to lower your interest rate by 5 to 9% in 15 minutes, which will save you as much as $10,000 in cash over the lifetime of your debt payments. Okay, so I don't know what all the numbers are there, kind of filling them in. But can you imagine if you're someone that's interested in getting out of debt, right? Can you imagine how attractive that sounds, right? That you're actually going to get a step-by-step method that takes 15 minutes, that gets you to lower the interest rate by 5 to 9%, and that saves you $10,000. All very, very attractive to that customer. And again, all based on why, what, how, what if. And when you're doing your sales and marketing later, when you're talking about your product, you want to be able to say, I show you how to do this thing quickly, easily, with low hassle, so that it works and it gets you really good results. And you want to just be saying that over and over and over and over again. So that's why you want to give your customers recipes, and why every chapter should essentially stand alone as its own recipe. Right? So not only is it kind of a bite-sized chunk that the customer can take and use and implement to get them some results and get them along the staircase to success, but also really helps you with the sales and marketing down the road. Now I want to give you kind of my personal secret for creating information product outlines. And really works well for me. Start with a list of exercises that give your customer the result that they want, and then work backwards from there. Okay, so we're going to start with a list of exercises. That's how we start the product outline. Make sure to include the techniques that deliver the fastest, most consistent, most predictable positive results. And then imagine the customer experience as they use the exercises in order to put them all in order. Okay? So what I do is I start with my fears and frustrations, my wants and my aspirations of my customer. Then I make a list of the exercises that they should do in order to solve those problems. And then I take the exercises and I put them in order, in the best order to learn them in. And let's say I've got 10 exercises that are the best ones. I put them in the order that they're best learned, the priority. I kind of fit together the priority that the customer wants to learn, along with there's some reality. You kind of have to learn your ABCs before you can learn how to do words, and then you have to learn how to do words before sentences, and then sentences before paragraphs. So some of your content is going to have to go in a specific sequence or syntax, and I understand that. But when you combine customer's highest priority with the order that they need to learn, and let's say you take those 10 exercises and then put them in order, if they did these 10 exercises one after the other, they'd get their results as quickly as possible. Then you can actually build each of your chapters around the exercises. Then you can do your why, what, how, and what if. Okay? So the exercise is really kind of them doing the how into the what if. Then you can go build the rest of the content. This is something that saves me a tremendous amount of time. In the past, what I would do is I would start with all the different ideas that I had and all the different techniques that I had, and I'd try to assemble them into some order that made sense. And now what I do is I take my customers' needs, I make a list of the best techniques and exercises that I have that give the best, most consistent, predictable results, write those down, pick the best 10 or so. I like products that have 10 sections, 10 chapters in a book, 10 sessions in a product. Oftentimes they have more or less, but 10 is a really nice number to start with. So I try to find my 10 best exercises that get the best results, put them in order according to priority of need of the customer and the sequence that they need to be learned in, and then from there my product essentially builds itself. Okay? So this is a really, it's kind of obvious once you think about it, but it took me years to figure this one out, and it really increased the speed that I could create a product. Because the reality is, from the customer's perspective, they're not as interested in the knowledge, right? They're interested in the result. So we want to give them the exercises or the action steps, right? The big action steps. And once we figure out what those action steps are we want them to take, well, then we can build our content around that. And again, another benefit here is that later on, when we're talking about the product in our sales and in our marketing, we're talking about things that get results. I'm going to teach you how to get this result. You're actually going to do an exercise. I'm going to walk you step by step through what to do to get the result that you want. because the whole thing was built around what they do, the exercises, the techniques, the actions that get the best results. So what I'm going to encourage you to do here, of course, is to make a list of, all of the big results that your customer wants, all the needs that they have. Then right next to each of them, write down the action step or the technique that they should do, and then, of course, build your product around that. So remember win beforehand from earlier in the program? The idea when creating your product is to waste as little time, energy, and effort as possible. Avoid creating something people don't want. Focus on creating something that sells itself because it's the solution to the most powerful customer needs. Okay, this is another way that we win beforehand, by making sure to connect every part of the product to a need, and we kind of use the exercises that they'll do or the action steps that we'll take as the bridge to them getting the results, and then to creating our outline. And once you've created, by the way, let's say you've got your 10 techniques that are going to deliver the 10 most important results to your customer, they act as really nice buckets to put all of your techniques and all of your ideas in. So let's say, for example, that I was going to create a program on how to get more dates, and I said, okay, well, I'm teaching men here how to get more dates. Right? Their biggest frustration is fear of rejection when talking to a woman in the street, for example. And another one that they ask a lot about is, how do I increase my self-confidence? Okay, so let's just take those two, for example. So they want to know how to approach an attractive woman and start a conversation without getting rejected, and they want to know how to increase their self-confidence. So if I had just those two, I'd probably put increase the self-confidence first, because that's the kind of inner game thing, and if they increase their self-confidence, well, then they're going to be better at approaching an attractive member of the opposite sex, right? So that's logically what I'd do. But then I'd stop and I'd say, hang on a minute. The guy that I'm teaching here, he wants to go start that conversation without getting rejected a lot more than he wants to increase his confidence. So then I'd have to make the call, right? Do I teach how to approach the woman without getting rejected first, or do I teach the self-confidence first? Right? Now, my call would be to teach the self-confidence first, but because I know that he wants to learn how to approach a woman without rejection, I'd probably teach the confidence, and I'd say right at the beginning, if you learn this, when you start approaching attractive members of the opposite sex, you're going to get rejected a lot less. Okay, to really incorporate that need in there. And then what I would do is I'd start off and I'd say, okay, what's my technique for increasing self-confidence? And I might have a self-image exercise that I teach, a visualization exercise. So I'll write down self-image exercise, and then for approaching someone without getting rejected, I'll teach them a technique of going and asking a question about an opinion on something. And so I'll write down those two techniques. And then from there, now I've got these buckets that I can put everything into. Everything that I am going to teach about self-image, everything I'm going to teach about increasing confidence can all go into that chapter that's going to end with the self-image exercise. Everything that I'm going to teach about how to start a conversation and how to avoid rejection is going to go into that chapter with the asking a question exercise. Okay, so again, now I have these buckets to put everything into. And when I do this, again, I'm lining up everything that we've learned here and creating a product that is very desirable. So mindset, we're using here is kind of ready, aim, 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 fire. With an information product, when you're creating an information product, there's no need to waste a lot of time creating something that won't work. Okay, so aim, aim, aim before firing, by continually checking with your prospective customers to connect every part of your product to a powerful emotional driver that they have. Okay, so if you're out at the target there doing target practice with a gun, and you're at the shooting range there, you can kind of stand 100 yards from the target and aim and then fire, or you can stand 100 yards from the target and aim, and then walk 20 yards closer and aim, and then walk another 20 yards closer and aim, and then another 20 yards closer and aim, and then fire. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do here. This is why we're continually checking with our customers, talking to people, asking them what their challenges are, helping them solve their problems to find the techniques that work the best, the ones that they use, etc. We're trying to align everything that we're doing with the real world feedback that we're getting from customers, and this is how we aim, and fire. I've seen so many people create information products kind of in isolation with no feedback from customers, with no feedback from their prospects, and then they create a product and they try to sell it to customers, try to talk people into wanting it, rather than really getting inside the mind of the customer and then making the product to match the needs of the customer, basing everything around techniques and strategies and recipes that get the customer what they want. Then when it comes time to sell it, it's really easy because you just talk about the outline and, hey, guess what? It's already aligned with what every one of your customers wants. Okay, so this is how we ready, aim, fire.